pushing ahead against Hamas.
They are making efforts to try to minimize civilian casualties.
As Gazans struggle to live, prepare and prevent.
It's been very difficult.
As the effects of seasonal depression are starting to appear. Superhero action. Saving a man from a vehicle. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Good morning, South Florida. I'm Julian Davis.
I'm Samantha Gutierrez. Today is Friday, November 3rd, 2023.
Live from the Lee Caplin School of Journalism and Media in North Miami. This is Caplin News.
New calls from the White House this morning for Israel to try to minimize civilian death in Gaza. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken meets with Israel officials in Tel Aviv to discuss what he says are concrete steps the country should make to minimize civilian deaths.
As CNN's John Lawrence reports, this comes as the Israeli military says it is surrounding Gaza City and maintaining its threat of a long war against Hamas.
The skies of northern Gaza illuminated with flares and explosives Thursday night. The bombings, which started shortly after last month's Hamas attack on Israel, have devastated the region, leaving many sections in shambles and claiming more than 9,000 lives.
The school was bombed and we got scared and kept crying. Then we kept walking, and went to the other school. It was very horrifying. We were scared.
President Joe Biden and other U.S. officials are warning Israel that the global outcry about the humanitarian suffering in Gaza could make it difficult for Israel to move forward with its military goals.
They are making efforts to try to minimize civilian casualties. That does not mean, and I did not say, that they aren't still causing some, that their operations aren't still causing some. They are, and each one's tragic.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives passed a bill that provides more than $14 billion in aid to Israel. The GOP-led bill rescinds funds that had been allocated to the IRS and would be separate from any legislation on aid to Ukraine. However, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the bill is flawed.
Instead, we will work together on our own bipartisan emergency aid package that includes aid to Israel, Ukraine, competition with the Chinese government, and humanitarian aid for Gaza.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Florida may not have seasons, but Washington, D.C. certainly does. And some Florida natives are learning that the effects of dusk arriving earlier might be more than they bargained for. Caplin's Hawa Izel has more on what to expect when it comes to fall in the southeast.
With daylight saving coming to an end, winter is closing in, which means our time with the sun is shorter. Now, I'm out here trying to get my vitamin D, but here on the East Coast, this cold is nothing to play with. So how are others coping?
Honestly, I'm not doing the best. There's not the same level of sunlight as you get in Florida. People underestimate how much that really affects your mood and like your actual well-being.
It's called SAD, or seasonal affective disorder, and it affects about 5% of Americans. For those who aren't used to seasons, like many interns who come from the South for career opportunities in D.C., the adjustment to less sun and wintry winds can be jarring.
I've never lived in the cold, so it's been very difficult. I've been struggling a lot, specifically just because the sun has been going away. Mentally, it's just been a little bit harder to focus.
Ariel Siant, a nurse at Sibley Memorial Hospital in Washington, D.C., says that when it's too cold to catch sun rays outside, there are other ways to boost serotonin.
Everyone's health and wellness journey will be different. Something I do is definitely work out. You know, exercising releases endorphins, so you're automatically going to be happier.
She also says finding a hobby is a great way to get through the colder months.
Just meeting new people, making friends, being in a different environment is all ways you can kind of like combat it and like trick your mind.
In DC, one of the best ways to trick your body into thinking you're closer to the equator is a visit to the U.S. Botanical Gardens, which recreates tropical climates for the plants it features. Despite the jarring adjustments, interns like Brandon say they're grateful for the experience.
Also, it's kind of like affecting me in a good way, because at least I can tackle this if I do end up living up north or anything like that. I know what to do.
Now that is a gorgeous sunset, but it's not even 6 p.m. yet. Regardless, D.C. residents are making the most of the sunlight they do have. In Washington, I'm Hawa Izel.
Senator Rick Scott of Florida is throwing his support behind former President Trump in the 2024 race for the White House. The senator made the decision instead of backing his state's GOP Governor Ron DeSantis. Scott, the former governor of Florida, announced the endorsement yesterday in a Newsweek op-ed.
The federal judge overseeing former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago document mishandling case has signaled she may be postponing the trial, which is scheduled to begin next spring. During a hearing Wednesday, the judge raised concerns whether Trump's defense team could complete the trial preparations by next May. The judge also cited Trump's other legal cases, which his attorneys are also working on.
It's a situation that will sound familiar to some South Floridians.
As Caplin's Paloma Pimentel reports, a project to restore a golf course in the D.C. area has some residents and environmental groups in arms.
Rock Creek Park in the nation's capital has one of the few public golf courses in the area, but golf enthusiasts say it's been neglected and needs some rehabilitation. They say 4 holes of the 18-hole course are unplayable. The nonprofit National Links Trust has a 50-year lease to manage the golf course and wants to undertake its rehabilitation, but it's proposing a move that is causing a lot of controversy. The National Park Service owns the land and says if there is any kind of improvement on the course, more than 1,000 trees would have to be removed. The National Links Trust says many of them are dead trees or driftwood anyway, but an environmental group, Casey Trees, says that the golf course fix would still mean that 707 healthy and native trees would be removed, and that goes too far. For example, the long-eared and Indiana bats and the Hayes Spring amphipod, which is native to the park and relies on the forest treatment of stormwater, would disappear.
We spoke to several players about their opinions on the redevelopment of the course.
It's a historic venue, and I think having a full 18-hole course that's accessible to the public is a terrific idea. Well, there's always a balance between environmental concerns and the uses, and so I'm not an expert in those sorts of things. I hope that they will do it wisely.
Removing trees and biodiversity in public parks for sports is also highly controversial in Aventura, Miami. We spoke to a resident who lives next to Founders Park, a public area where the city removed 33 trees and plans to develop 70 acres for pickleball courts, about the ongoing organized protests to prevent the project. The issue is in litigation right now.
There's another court date in April, and that's when the judge will make his final decision if they have to restore the park or if they can keep the pickleball. So it's definitely not over. We're going to protest Tuesday.
The National Public Service's public comment period for their golf course assessment is extended until November 4th after public pushback. I am Paloma Pimentel reporting for Caplin News.
A dramatic rescue is caught on police body camera video in Southwest Florida recently. As Gage Golding from WBBH reports, officers lifted up a car to save a man trapped underneath it.
It's harrowing body cam video that gives us a glimpse into the heart-pounding rescue of a man trapped under his own car.
The whole car falling on his body.
Carlos Romero sharing that on Monday evening he was helping his father-in-law, Francisco, replace the transmission cable on his car, his prized possession.
He loved the car.
The only thing holding the car up in their Cape Coral driveway are these ramps, and somehow they failed, the car collapsing on Francisco. While dialing 911, Carlos tried everything he could think of.
Then I grabbed another jack from that car, and that one was better. Or at least I have in the car a little separate from the body.
Cape Coral police arriving just in the nick of time. 2 officers literally picking the car up,
get over here,
allowing Carlos to pull his father-in-law from underneath. At this point, Francisco is unconscious and barely breathing.
Yeah, he had both. He's got one? He had both.
But if that had continued to weigh on him like that, he probably would have lost his life.
Francisco is now in the hospital. Doctors say he has 7 cracked ribs and some other broken bones, but the most important thing he has is his life.
The doctor says it's a miracle. He's alive.
All thanks to these 2 officers.
It's like the Hulk lifting a car off of somebody. It's pretty cool, and we're really proud of them.
That was Gage Golding from WBBH. The man is still recovering in the hospital, but his family hopes he'll be released today or tomorrow.
Some retailers are giving shoppers a reason to be thankful this Thanksgiving. Target's holiday meal costs about $25 and serves 4. And it includes 10-pound turkey, potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, stuffing mix, and gravy. Walmart has one that's available either ready to bake or to cook from scratch. And Aldi says it's lowering prices over 70 items for the holidays.
Amazon's founder Jeff Bezos is trading Seattle's best coffee for some South Florida cafecito. Bezos announced on social media yesterday that he is moving to Miami to live closer to his parents. Bezos is not new to South Florida, as he was a teenager here. He went to Miami Palmetto Senior High School.
The Panthers looking for a bounce-back win on the road.
That's still ahead, and so is this story.
Who's still alive, and that's gonna be watching the movie, and that was actually on set. It was very intimidating.
A new movie highlighting the power of teaching. Class will be back in 2 minutes.
Radcliffe Art and Design Incubator is the velocity accompanying the fellow's rudder, as in a boat. Unless there is movement or action, the planned direction is of little consequence. We encourage the creative ideas into action, and from the experience of doing, we critically assess the feedback, adjust, and set out to rediscover the potentialities of an entrepreneurial mindset.
To Inspire, a new film tells the story of a teacher in a Mexican border town who is desperate to save students from neglect, corruption, and violence. The film that won the Festival Favorite Award at this year's Sundance Film Festival arrives in theaters today.
And as Caplin's Jasmine Moncada reports, it's based on an inspiring true story.
A nadie le importa un carajo lo que pasa aquí. Usted pidió venir aquí. ¿Para qué? Pues, solo quería probar algo distinto.
Radical stars Eugene Debrez as Sergio Juarez, a teacher who challenged students to rise above the violence and hopelessness of their small Mexican town.
To play someone who's still alive, and that's gonna be watching the movie, and that was actually on set, it was very intimidating.
Nada ha cambiado en la educación en los últimos 100 años. Pero resulta que estos niños son bien abusados.
¿Tú crees que yo podría ser ingeniero aeroespacial?
Lo que cada uno de ustedes necesita, ya lo tienen. Potencial.
And I was always asking him how was the relationship and then all the mechanics with the kids. I didn't want to do something that wasn't accurate or real.
Usted manda a estos niños disparados como cohetes al espacio, metiéndole todas esas ideas en la cabeza. Recordándole lo que no pueden tener, lo que no pueden ser.
This oppressive environment, essentially oppressive because of its lack of possibility, of its lack of even a mindset that there is any other, that you can get out of here.
La vamos a usar y vamos a ser los mejores estudiantes del mundo.
He had a dream that he was going to change something, and he started in literally the trash dump he grew up in, returned to it, try to do something different.
Yo no voy a decidir lo que van a aprender. Eso lo van a decidir ustedes. Puede ser lo que sea, lo que sea.
The way to initiate a child's journey into a lifetime of learning is to actually be interested in what they want to learn about.
Pregunto que por qué vine aquí. Ya no quiero perder más niños.
I'm Jasmine Moncada reporting.
The Panthers made a surprising comeback in Detroit. A series of 25 saves enabled them to dominate the Red Wings in their own arena. The Panthers will go on to face the Blackhawks tomorrow in Chicago. The final score in last night's game is Panthers 2, Red Wings 0. Fans remain hopeful that this will be a good season for the Cats.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Samantha Gutierrez.
And I'm Julian Davis. Get more news anytime at caplinnews.fiu.edu.